it's a numbers game. I mean, if you start reaching out to people, even in a cold call type of manner, you're just messaging people left and right and saying, hey, I'm trying to start this. Would you pass along the word? They want to help.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
People will help you if you ask for help.
Absolutely.
So that really was how I started to build.
Welcome to the Cincinnati Business Podcast, where we elevate the voices of business owners, nonprofits, and subject matter experts across the greater Cincinnati area, and brought to you by the Cincinnati Podcast Studio. Welcome, everybody. I'm Brian Erickson. Glad to have you back to the Cincinnati Business Podcast. I've got a good friend that I want to introduce you to today. Her name is Amanda Hood. She is with The Crush Confidential, and you're a little bit north of the Cincinnati area, but the cool thing is you do stuff all over the country. And people may ask, what is The Crush Confidential? And you know what? I'm not even going to try and describe it. You describe it for me. What is it that you do?
Okay, thank you. So I actually live in the Dayton area, but my clients are nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
And The Crush Confidential is a boutique full-service relationship curation agency. And what that means is, essentially, your layman person might just call us a matchmaking agency. And obviously, matchmaking is a huge part of what I do. It's the main thing that I do. I call myself a VIP matchmaker. But the reason that we're actually the nation's only full service relationship curation agency, because all really except us, matchmaking companies focus on introduction services, which means they're a one date model. And we're actually a 3-date model. So we're really trying to curate a relationship and launch a new relationship. Obviously, it's going to be in its infancy, but we try to launch a relationship between two people before we let them go versus just putting out single dates.
Love it. That's awesome. Okay, we're going to get a lot more into that. But one of the things that I'm really curious about is what got you to this point? Because as you and I've talked before, like, you love matchmaking in the layman's term.
I do.
But I can tell it just brings you a ton of joy when you do it.
Yeah.
But it takes a big jump to go from working from somebody else to starting your own business. So what was your story that kind of brought you to starting The Crush Confidential?
Yeah, so I started in matchmaking almost 8 years ago, and I was with it's called a mid-tier level matchmaking company. And so it's not going to be like a boutique level or a top tier level, but a mid-tier company. And I was with them for quite a while. And actually, really, I have to say that it was a great place to get my start because pros and cons, they work their matchmakers to death. They work them very, very hard. I carried a roster of, I know that this might be hard for you to comprehend, but this is a very heavy client roster. When I left there, I had 66 clients.
That's a lot.
It's overwhelming.
If you
it's
actually
so
care
much.
about your people, that's a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So it was a very high roster. I put out over between 550 and 600 dates per year. And so it's a lot of matching and a lot of clients and just rolling them through. And obviously it was a national company. So I got to know the demography of almost every major metropolitan area in the United States. And when I say demography, it's going to be different from what you're thinking. I mean single person demography and cultural demography when it comes to dating, how different people will not date other different types of people, or certain religions are refusing to date other religions, or certain ethnicities won't date other ethnicities. I know all of these little intricacies that would probably blow your mind. But I love that I had the experience that I had there, because even though I needed to leave, and after a while I felt like it was kind of jeopardizing my integrity, because I'm listen, I'm just throwing people out on matches, right? It taught me so much about how to really be a matchmaker, but also what these clients need and what works and what doesn't work. So I left that company and then I went to a boutique firm because I wanted to have like the boutique experience. And when I went there, I was incredibly shocked that the people were paying so much more money, thousands and thousands more, and were still not receiving the level of service that they were expecting. I mean, this is a company that was like, they were being sued left and right. And it was just crazy. I'm like, why aren't these people getting what they have expected to receive? What is happening here? And again, my integrity was jeopardized. And I said, I can do this better. I know that I can do this better. I know what clients need. I know what clients deserve, and what they think that they are paying for should equal their experience. So that's why I started the Crush Confidential.
Man, and took a leap of faith saying, I can do this.
Yeah, it's a huge leap of faith, when you're an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're like, hope this works.
I got bills to pay. Hope this works.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope this works out.
Oh my gosh, man. So, tell me, like, I'm curious about the emotions you may have been feeling when you're starting your business. Like, because I know for me, it was a whole lot of fear in there. But like, what were you feeling as you were getting this thing off the ground?
Yeah. And, I'm gonna really validate your fear a little bit, even more than my fear for a moment, because I know that you're a husband and a dad. And I know the pressures that are on men who are dads and husbands. Yeah. And that's probably even a larger pressure than what I felt. Although I felt pressure because I remember, and I have a very supportive husband. You've met my husband, Ryan. He is very supportive. God bless him. But, and he said, I was like, do you believe in me? And he was like, I believe in you. I'm just wondering, when are you going to make money? And I couldn't really answer that question. All I could say was, I hope soon, because I was putting myself into debt as I was, paying for things that were necessary to start the business, like software and subscriptions and attorney fees for writing up contracts and all of those things that you have to do when you become an entrepreneur. And I was really very scared, but at the same time, I am a hustler by nature.
You are.
I have never been, I have been down and out and in debt just as many people have, but I've never actually been like broke because I just hustle. Like I've always been able to figure out a way to quickly do work for people, quickly make money. And I just got to work just very, very fast. And it's a numbers game. If you start reaching out to people, even in a cold call type of manner, you're just messaging people left and right and saying, hey, I'm trying to start this. Would you pass along the word? They want to help.
Absolutely.
People will help you if you ask for help.
Absolutely.
So that really was how I started to build.
That's cool. Okay. So you're reminding me, our first episode was with a business coach named Jim Diebold. Fantastic guy. And he was talking about how the basics of business are fairly boring because it's it's doing the right things day after day after day, like cold calling, like trying to get people to network and help you and try and build your business. And eventually, if you last long enough, your business is going to succeed. And in your case, your business has been thriving for a while now. And it's amazing to see. I know that when you and I first met, we met over telling the story of one of your clients. And it was really pretty incredible to see how much they love you as they go through this process.
Yeah.
And I think that is amazing because you talked about the idea of integrity, trying to have integrity while you do this process so people feel like they're not getting ripped off.
Yeah.
Because what you do sell is a high ticket item and it is for a specific sort of person. Because dating apps exist. In a way, you're almost competing with dating apps. But you say, no, I actually think there needs to be some relationship here between me as the matchmaker, knowing who you are and creating an awesome connection between you and your potential match.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what does that process look like if someone first comes to you and says, these dating apps aren't working for me. I need something different. I need some help. What does that kind of look like?
Yeah. Well, first, that's everyone.
Yeah.
Because dating apps do exist,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone is going to try free stuff before they ever come to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how wealthy you are. You're going to try the free stuff first. And then you're going to move from the free stuff to the cheap stuff. And you're going to try that. So by the time I have two different types of clients. The first type that comes to me is emotionally spent. They are sometimes depressed, exhausted from dating apps, confused, stuck in this space of like ambiguity where they don't understand things like bots and catfishing. And with the introduction of AI, it's been really bad with like fake accounts and filters that, you know, women put on their pictures. And they're like, I met this woman out and she was like a different woman. And all of these things that they're frustrated, and they feel a sense of, sometimes an overwhelming sense of desperation, or I'm running out of time. Like I'm wasting a lot of time in this space and I'm running out of time and I don't know how else to meet people. I'm not even sure like really what to do. So I have that client. Then I have the client who is your typical entrepreneur who does have a higher net worth and who is so super busy that he's annoyed with when he does have the small amount of time that he has to meet women out on dates. They don't even fit the criteria that he was wanting. So, and he doesn't have the time to do all of the screening and vetting and background checks and getting to know them up first before he takes on. He doesn't have that time. So he hires me to do a service that he's just frankly way too busy to do. And I continuously am saying he, but obviously like I take women too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's these two types of clients, and both of them need this. I treat both of them the same, but both of them need to feel like they are getting something for their money, because this is not like a BMW dealership where you walk in, you spend $85,000, you leave with a car. This is going to be something different where like I always compare it to how, okay, I pay my cleaning lady like $16,000 or $17,000 a year, and 4 days later my house is still dirty, but you're paying for a service. Or I mean, you can easily drop $30,000 on a family of 6 to go on a trip to Europe. Easy.
Mm-hmm.
And you come back. What do you have that's tangible? You have nothing that's tangible. You have memories and you have an experience that you paid for. So I started to think, okay, how can I make sure that these people are getting value? Because I can't ever guarantee that I'm going to find their spouse. I will never make that kind of a guarantee. That's an impossible guarantee. So how can I make sure that they feel like I have gotten my money's worth and I have received value? And the reason that you get a sense when you did meet my one couple that they love me is because they love me and I love them. Like I really make a point to make sure that if my client leaves me at the end of their contract and they're not partnered, that they feel like, wow, I got a good experience and I learned a lot. And I have Amanda indefinitely. Like I still have contracts clients who are no longer in contract. They're no longer my contracted client, and they still text me and they still ask me for advice, and I'm still there for them because they're with me for life. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I still want to see them partnered. And I actually still put them out with like, if a new client comes in and they fit their criteria, or I see another matchmaker in my network somewhere in the country who has a client that might fit with that ex-client of mine, that's who I'm going to contact first. I think of them first. So I just make it a very special white glove, even like bougie experience, because I feel like that's what they expect and that's what I give them. I mean, my clients get birthday gifts, my clients get onboarding presents, my clients get Christmas presents. Like I make sure it's very white glove for them. And any local client, and by local, I mean, if you live within 5 hours of me, I'm driving to you and I'm meeting you in real life. Clients who sign up for very expensive packages, I fly out to them as well. So I think you should be meeting your matchmaker in real life.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's one of the great things about Cincinnati is we're like 5 hours from everything.
I know, it's so great. I'm like okay, I could be in Cleveland, Indianapolis, Detroit, Lexington, Nashville. Like I drove to my client in Nashville. Totally.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, so here's the interesting thing too. One of the things that a lot of business owners think about is how can they provide a guarantee? And I know that you cannot guarantee that you will match somebody, but I love the guarantee you do offer people.
Yeah.
And so when people are thinking about spending money with you, what is the guarantee that you give them at the end of that time?
So they always want to know if I can guarantee, obviously, relationship success. Like that's a big question. And then I say, no, I cannot guarantee that I'm going to find the love of your life, your soulmate, your spouse, whatever it is that you're seeking. I can't guarantee that piece. But I do guarantee that I will work very, very hard for you. I work 100% for my clients. I am your advocate. I'm your eyes, your ears, and your heart through the process. And when you do leave with me, if you're not partnered, you will leave with me a better dater than when you arrived. Because all of my packages include coaching, which I'm actually very passionate about as well. I think that date coaching is really important. So all of the packages come with coaching, and they're going to learn a lot of like tools and strategies and techniques that they're going to have with them when they leave me. And not only that, but think about how cool this is where you go on a date with somebody. So when I put two people out on a date, and they spend a couple hours together, the following day, I send both of them a date feedback form, okay?
Well, that's a great idea.
And they are able to fill this out, and I tell both of them to be transparent and be candid, and the forms come to me, okay? So I review them, and then I have a session with each one of them, a coaching session with each one of them. And I ask them first, before we even start talking, before we get into this session, are you open to constructive criticism that could potentially help with your dating journey?
That's a good question.
And they always say yes.
Of course.
Because why have they paid this money? Like they want to know. They want to know what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. And so I say, okay, and we get right into it. Now, I only give constructive criticism. For example, if a lady says like his ears were too big, well, we're not changing his ears.
We're not recommending surgery.
We're not changing his ears. We're not doing that. So we don't talk about his ears, and I leave that part out. But if she says, hey, everything was really good until the end of the evening. We were having a great time and great conversation. The end of the evening, he didn't tip. And I can't be with a man like that that's not going to leave a tip. You bet your butt I'm going to let him know. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say, what are you doing? Why aren't you tipping?
Yeah.
And we're going to get down to the bottom of that. And we're going to work on changing some things around. Because a lot of times these people don't know. They don't know like what's going on.
Yeah.
And ghosting is so common, Brian.
Oh, it's a mess right now.
It's a mess. It's a racket. So these men and women get ghosted. So they really have no idea what happened. So how is that helping anyone?
No.
I also encourage my clients, like say that you meet somebody organically, because even if you sign with me, your life doesn't stop. You're still going to the grocery. You're still going to the coffee shop. You can meet somebody at the coffee shop. You can meet somebody at the grocery. Yeah. So I'm like, hey, your life doesn't stop. Don't be afraid to like still talk to people or still ask somebody out if you want to ask them out, whatever. If something happens in real life, in organic space, where I didn't put you out with this person, but you go out with them on a date and then they ghost you and you think that it was great, like you think you guys had a great time and you don't really know what has happened, ask them. Say, hey, obviously you don't want to see me anymore. That's totally fine. I am really working on myself right now and trying to be a better dater. Would you be open to giving me some constructive criticism that could help with my dating journey? Do you know how many women actually respond and say, I am open to giving you that? But men don't ask for it.
Interesting. Huh.
Ego gets in the way of a lot of things.
Sure does. Oh my gosh. Well, that's an interesting part of your work is you are so, like, you have to be so plugged into the psychology of how this works.
Yeah.
That like you're learning so many different parts of that I almost wish you could just like download it to everybody. In a way, because like you also do monthly like lunch and learns, like the webinars.
Oh
online.
Yeah, those are fun. We just started those. We've been doing them for 2 months now, but So I partnered up with my dear friend, and her name is Holly McCusker. She is amazing. I've worked with her for a very long time. She is an outstanding coach, and I mean, just a beautiful human being, but incredibly knowledgeable, especially in the singles space, and just really specializes in working with singles. And she's really gifted. She owns a company that we partner up and work together called Love Prescriptions, and it's a coaching company. And we've been running these little like live webinars. They are free. And
you guys should check them out. They're pretty great.
You can go to thecrushconfidential.com and click on the dating dish. It's called the Dating Dish lunch hour dating chats. And just it's wonderful too we have a lot of just executives that at their lunch hour hop on and they're eating their lunch totally fine. Listen to the Dating Dish, learn some things. And we've been getting really good response from that. I mean, we had like 81 people registered for the one last month. So we've been getting a really good turnout on those. And they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, I loved that. I think the topic that you were dealing with on the last one was rejection and how to handle rejection.
Yeah. That was month before last, but
the month before last.
Yeah.
And
were you on?
I listened to it. That's for sure.
Oh, you did. You did listen to it.
I did listen to it.
Yeah, that's good.
And,
you listened to the replay.
And I thought it was really interesting how you guys are coaching emotional health in the midst of this crazy dating world. And especially like you're coaching people who are usually higher up in business world, and they're having to have these almost basic conversations about how to emotionally be healthy in the midst of this craziness. Like, what is that like for you? Does that feel weird to be coaching people who seem to know a lot about how to do life? And like, does that feel weird at all?
You know, what's interesting is that it doesn't really feel that weird because there isn't a huge gap between C-suite coaching and date coaching. If you are a single executive and you're like in your own head, you know, mentally or blocked, if you will, in some way, or struggling or high anxiety or whatever, that will carry over into your personal life. It'll carry over into your dating space. And it will prevent you from being able to be a good dater as well. So I know that that's interesting, but it's like kind of the same. Like if you're personally doing great, like the single man who's in a new relationship and things are going wonderfully and he's so excited about it, will start like performing really great at his job and have more tolerance of his employees. And do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
He's happy.
Yeah.
So these two things correlate. So it's not really a big gap, if you will.
Yeah.
But I think that I think it's important to focus on mental health and it messes people up being on this dating journey. But not only that, we've really not normalized rejection as we should. That's unfortunate. But this dating path is going to be just completely like whittled with rejection because you're only looking for, at the end of the day, one partner, one human. So you will be rejected and you will have to reject people. That's absolutely part of the process. So we need to normalize that and be good with that and be okay with that and be really excited for the experience that's to come. Whether that person is in our life for a reason or a season, you have to recognize which one is it. And then be really thankful that you had that experience. That's
great. So I'm sure that a lot of people that are listening are probably not comfortable with rejection. And in the business world especially, rejection's a big thing. Like you got, especially sales, trying to figure out all that stuff. But dating is a massive world of, like, it feels personal. It feels like they are speaking to who you are when you're rejected. Yeah. So what are some tips that you give people around how to learn to be rejected well and in a healthy way.
Well, my first tip is I'm going to circle right back
Yeah.
to what I said a few minutes ago, asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
What's really terrible is that when people do get rejected, especially if it's via ghosting, they will create a narrative as to why they got rejected. Like a man who's 5'7" is going to say, it's because I'm short. But is it because you're short? Because didn't your dating profile say your height? She already knew you were 5'7".
Mm-hmm.
So why do you think it's because you're 5'7"? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not because of that. Like I had this one guy, a doctor, and he was like, yeah, I keep getting rejected because he's older. He's like 54 and he has a young daughter. She's like 7. So because he's 54 and he has a 7-year-old daughter, at that age, you're typically like an empty nester, you have teenagers or whatever, but she's still very young, a lot of raising to do, a lot of years left. He's like, yeah, I just keep getting rejected, because of my daughter. And I said, well, maybe you should start being transparent, like right out of the gate, that you have a 7-year-old daughter. And he said, they always know that.
How?
Then you're not being rejected because of your daughter.
Yeah.
You think you're being rejected because of your daughter. You're being rejected because of something else that maybe you don't want to see in yourself. But most importantly, you haven't asked. You're not following up and saying, hey, you don't want a second date? Totally fine. I get it. Or you don't want a third date, or you don't want a fourth date or whatever. Totally fine. I'm trying to be a better dater. I am looking for my person, wholeheartedly looking for my person. And I am open to constructive criticism that you will give me. Would you mind having a quick call with me and just letting me know? And if you're not comfortable having it with me, would you have it with my coach and let my coach know what it is that I can change? What can I work on?
That's awesome. I love that. And I think that is a really big thing to always try to be learning. Like just not giving up.
Not drawing assumptions.
Yeah.
There's so many assumptions that are drawn because nobody asked any questions.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you know that that's true?
So it's usually always the biggest insecurity.
Yeah. Or maybe something, we all have these you get to be a certain age, we all come with some sort of like relationship PTSD. We're like defined by our relationship past, and we can't help that. That's like who we are. But like that doctor, like maybe a couple women in his past said, I just can't deal with the fact that I don't want to start back over in my life. I'm an empty nester and you have a 7-year-old. Maybe 2 women said that. And that has now set the stage where he just believes if I'm getting rejected, it's because of my daughter. When that's not necessarily true. You haven't even asked. You just now make that assumption because you are triggered into believing that narrative.
Interesting. Wow. That's deep. And I think people don't even think that it is okay to circle back and ask questions afterwards. Like it's almost as if these people are like, nope, don't talk to me ever again.
Yeah. Well, I actually ask. I ask when people sign up with me, I even ask tell me, when they say, well, this has happened and this has happened, because I always say, let's talk about your relationship history. And I will ask them outright, well, they'll say, well, she left me because of this, or she left me because of that, or she did this, or she did that, or she believed this. And then I say, did she say that to you directly? And do you know how many times they're like, well, no, but, well, did you ask? Did you ask why? Why? That's like my favorite question. My husband hates that that's my favorite question. He's like, you ask so many questions. I'm like, I want to know the why.
Yeah.
I want to know the reason behind it.
You and Simon Sinek are peas in a pod right there. Start with why. I love
Start with why.
Yes.
So yeah, but it's very important to ask, and then wow, let's figure this out. Let's make a change. Mm-hmm. One guy, he is great. He was really, really great, but he lived in Atlanta, and he was handsome, 6'3", active, fit. He played in 3 tennis leagues. He was an entrepreneur. He owned 2 businesses. He had a couple teenagers, and he was like hiring me definitely because he was just too busy, right? So I'm like, okay, this guy's great, super matchable, like handsome, like super matchable. I'm thinking it's not going to be any problem. Well, he kept getting rejected on these dates. And I'm like, what is happening? And come to find out that I started taking the time and really talking with the women. And I'm like, what is happening here? And he was trying to sell himself on these dates, okay, by talking about all the things that he does and who he is and whatever else, which is fine. But what was then happening was that women start building their own narrative. Men do this too, but they were building their own story. And the story looked like, this guy has no time for me. I'll never see this guy. Why would I want to get into a relationship with somebody that I'll never see? Like, I want to do some date nights with this guy. I want to do Netflix and chill with this guy. This guy has no time for me. So his name was Brian. I had to talk with him. I said, Brian, did you know that this was happening? Are you doing this on these dates? And he was like, wow. Yeah. And you know what's funny? He was like, if I find my person, like, I would quit the tennis leagues. I would make the time for them. And I'm like, but they don't know that. They don't know that because you're not looking at them and saying, if this works out, I'm quitting those tennis leagues.
Wow.
So they're just assuming you don't have time for them in your life. Like, they actually wrote in the comments, like, this guy shouldn't be dating. He's way too busy to be dating. And he's like, what? I'm filling my time because I'm single. I have nothing else to do. And that's something too that I think people don't realize is that single people, especially like extroverted single people or go-getters, entrepreneurs, they will fill their space. They don't want to be sitting at home doing nothing alone. So they'll fill it. But when it's all full, now they're intimidating to singles. It's
because
a catch-22.
That's
yes,
interesting.
It is a catch-22. So it takes somebody like me, it takes an advocate to say, you know what? Single people fill their schedule. They want to be busy. They don't want to be sitting at home and being mopey. Especially business owners or C-suite executives, man, they are go-getters. They are out there. Mm-hmm. They're getting stuff done. They're playing golf. They're in tennis leagues. They're playing pickleball. They're at the country club. Like, whatever it is, they are filling that time.
But people just don't know that they are willing to move that time.
That's correct.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit because you're working in a market that that a lot of business owners would like to have a connection inside of. Mm-hmm. And so often like the going wisdom is sell to people who have money. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of curious, what is your perspective of what it is people usually in the C-suite or doctors or something like, what is it usually that they are looking for that they're usually willing to spend money on? Because I'm trying to think of like the small business owner who's like, hey, I want to sell this to C-suite style people. Yeah. What is usually that C-suite people want that, or some tips that you've seen as you go through this? Yeah. So tips for entrepreneurs who want a high net worth clientele. Yeah. You definitely, I mean, if you are going to be selling and or servicing a higher caliber clientele, then you need to be higher caliber yourself. If I'm spending $20 or $30 or $50,000 on matchmaking, and my matchmaker pulls up in like a 1986, Ford Ranger. Nothing against Ford Ranger. I actually love that car, but I get it.
That was the truck back in the day, and the Chevy S10, that was the truck.
Oh yes.
But if somebody pulls up in like an old like rusted out like pickup truck, and they get out and they're not well kept, and I don't know, I would be very reluctant to think that they would know anything about my world. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I would be like, how are you going to find people for me when you're not hanging out anywhere where you're going to meet people that I want you to meet for my love journey? Mm-hmm. So that I think is incredibly important. I really had to focus on, because my first year in business, I will tell you, I dropped a ton in marketing, casting just too wide of a net. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, okay, this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense in my industry to like just have a commercial that's going to be, sent out to the masses. It needs to be more niche than that. So get yourself a country club membership and try to partner up with, like, I have partner vendor relationships, and my vendors also have like multi-millionaire clientele. For example, I choose to partner with like the most successful real estate agents. I choose to partner with the salon and spa owners of the most expensive salons and spas. And I do this in different cities around the United States. And let me tell you, my most valuable resource, never underestimate the power of a married, middle-aged, wealthy wife. Because they all want to play matchmaker.
They all do.
They love it.
They love it.
So I love partnering up with them because your vibe defines your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Your vibe defines your tribe. So higher caliber people, college educated people, professional people who make a lot of money are going to tend to hang out with that same type of people.
Yeah.
So when you know that, then you can infiltrate an entire group, and that's how you can build a really strong network of professional upper echelon single people.
Well, and I think there's another piece to it too, that you talked about this entire episode. But from what I can tell, the one thing that people who have money want is more time. And so it's the one thing they can't buy.
Yeah.
And so
including myself.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, it sounds like a lot of your services are saying, you don't have the time to deal with this.
Yeah.
Let me handle it.
Right. That's what we do.
Yeah. That is your entire business model.
And I have a team around me. Like
you
should know, I have a team. I have coaches, and I have 3 recruiters that work very hard for me. And I have a marketing specialist, and I have an events coordinator. And so yeah, I have a team around me. And currently I am the only matchmaker, but that's by design. And I do like to make sure that if clients are coming in, that they are working directly with the founder.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, we are in growth. We are growing. And frankly, I can only take on so many clients at once and still give them the experience that they deserve. So actually for 2025, we're looking to hire 2 matchmakers.
Oh, congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
And they will already be experienced matchmakers, 3 years plus under their matchmaking belt. And they will come in and they will work with me. And then people will have, a tiered option of, do you want to work with the founder, or are you okay working with a still experienced VIP advanced matchmaker?
That's so cool. Oh my gosh. I could keep talking with you about this for a long time, but we're hitting the end of our time. So I know I have so much
we
more.
could talk all day.
I know we could. But we end every single episode with your pitch, kind of. So like what it is you do and how people who are interested in what you do can get connected with you. So there's your camera. Give your 30-second pitch and how they can connect with you.
Okay.
Just so that people, because I think some people are going to be really interested in what you do post this.
Yeah. And that's, and thank you for that, because it really is needed. I'm really the only one in this particular area, and I'm excited to be here, and especially to service local, what I call local, within like, a 5-hour radius clientele, because it really, there is a need. So you can find us at The Crush Confidential, and that's www.thecrushconfidential.com. And you can also email at info@thecrushconfidential.com. And we're on all socials. So find us on socials at thecrushconfidential.com. It's really easy to find us. We're on Google. And I actually consult with each person who's interested in learning more about being a client, and consultations are free. So
love it. And an easy next step is sign up for your next lunch and learn that you guys got coming up.
Sign up at The Dating Dish. So that's thecrushconfidential.com. You click on The Dating Dish and it tells you our next event and when it's coming, and there's a registration form, and you get your little email with the link to Zoom, and it is live over your lunch break.
Oh man, I love it. Thank you so much. Seriously, I was thinking about like when we got to meet some of your past clients, like they just gush over you, and they love working with you. And it's
I love them.
I know you do.
I do. I have great clients.
You do, and I think that really shines through, and that's why I was so excited to have you on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.